Hey YouTube, we have Retro Cup this week. First time we've seen this in a while, I believe. It's a 1500 CP league, so a great league. Dark, Steel, and Fairy typing are banned. So with that, we'll look at the rankings and we'll kind of go over why the rankings are the way they are. And then we'll go from there. So the first thing I noticed is Steel banned and Fairy banned. Mostly the Steel in particular makes Flyers better, right? Because you're not just going to get walled by Steel. And then Steel's plus Fairy makes Altaria better, right? So that's why you have all those sort of Pidgeot, the Owl, Flyer, Altaria, Flyers, Pelipper, right? All Mantine is technically have Flyer too. All go bad, right? I just keep going down the list, and there's Flyer, right? So having the Steel banned, you're gonna see a lot more Flyers. If you're seeing a lot more Flyers, you're gonna see Lantern, and then immediately I'm like, oh no, Lantern, Octel Core. We're really going to see this again, and the first thing I put together is, yeah, you will see this again, unfortunately. So just keep that in mind. If you have a bunch of Flyers, you may see answers to Flyers, aka Lantern, but also Frostas. Anytime Frostas is in a limited meta, it is one of the best Pokemon. And because it is weak to Dark, it's weak to Dark and Ghost, right? So Dark banned, Frostas way more ability to roam free there. So Lickitung is another answer because Lickitung is so highly rated because I think it's for two reasons. One, Steel's banned, so Body Slam Power Up would be resisted against Steel, and Dark is banned, and Lick is resisted by Dark. So I think just eliminating some Pokemon that your fast move is resisted from and your charge moves are resisted from just makes it's already one of like top Pokemon anyway, so it just kind of like makes it higher. Auroras, I think Auroras is on here again because Frostas is on here as an answer to the Flyers, right? So it's a nice answer to all these Flyers you're going to see. Jellicent gets a bump on this list because, again, Dark is banned. So one of your toughest answers and walls are banned, so you can now jump up here a bit. Golbat is one of the ones where it's just like, okay, that's interesting because Golbat, a lot of people like Golbat because Wing Attack buff. So the Wing Attack buff and then Poison Fang lower the defense, and then you have the Shadow Ball, same thing, Shadow Ball nuke for all these like Frostas and stuff like that. Jellicent, one shot there. Double, we just kind of seen Double in the single typing cup. It's a great safe swap. It's overtaken Vigoroth as the best safe swap just because you have payback for way better coverage, and it's a little tankier. Cofagrigus, speaking about things we just saw that only got walled by Umbreon, right? Cofagrigus is so dominant except for getting walled by Darks. So Darks are gone, Cofagrigus up again. We just saw a ton of those. So again, and then Crest, like Crest's main weakness is Dark. Its Grass Knot and Moonblast will be resisted by Steel, so it gets a bump. So it's a lot of Pokemon that are strong in general, but just they're either charge moves or fast moves against the meta make them a little lower in the Open Great League list. Except now they have more ability to roam free. And same thing, you look at like Toxapex. Toxapex's biggest answer, one of the biggest answers is like Swampert, which is still here, but one of the answers is like Steel, right? G-Fisk is anything, the poison that was resisted. Registeel, stuff like that resists the poison. So all these Pokemon that can like roam a little more free, you will see now. So there's lots of options for teams. Unfortunately, the first option for team I thought of was Lantern and Noctowl Core. And unfortunately, it actually covers a ton of the meta. So look at that. Lantern Owl down the list takes care of pretty much everything. There's going to be the core breakers that you've seen before, like Abomasnow and stuff like that. But outside of that, unfortunately, you can just run this meta. And if you're going to be weak to like Abomasnow, stuff like that, you just cover it with something like Auroras or pick a fighter. And you can cover your weakness in that perspective. And you got a team that you know works. You have a core that you know works together. So unfortunately, I think you may see that core. Another team I put together, there's actually, like, this has been on before, so I got 3 teams that will come up here. So I said, like, if you're going to run that core, I'm going to run Abomasnow. And again, it's got a little more freedom in this. It's still just kind of glassy, and there's just a bunch of fighters still because Fairy's banned, right? So you're going to see some fighters. So it's got some strengths, but it's got some weaknesses. I covered it with Molga because, like, if you're going to see fighters, You can do well with a half flyer there. And then Defense Deoxys was also sort of like just like bulky. I guess you beat Frostlass. Yeah, it's Frostlass I can see as being a bit of an issue. But if you have like Rock Slide, you can hit super effective, and Emolga Acrobatics will one shot, and Abomasnow and thing there. And then Defense Deoxys is sort of bulky as a fighter, can deal with all these lots of things that are weak to fighting on this list, right? With Regirock, Double, Walrein, Dugong, Abomasnow, right? There's a lot on this list that fighter will be good against as well. Even if Steel and Dark, which is two things that you hit super well against with as a fighter, are banned. So I have used this, again, this cup is not new. So I look back and I like just pulled 3 teams from my entire list of teams that I've used in the past. Just be like, okay, this makes sense and why. So an ABB weak to fighter team. So Greedent as your safe swap. I think Greedent's pretty great. Like Double, you can use Double. I think Greedent, this was probably before Double was around a lot. So if you want to use this team, you can use Double instead of Greedent. But I think Greedent's a fine safe swap as well. Pull out a fighter there, spam. Crest will punish. Again, you don't really need to worry about too much with Crest except for Ghosts, since Dark is banned and Steel is banned, right? So, and then Walrein as the other one that can sort of roam free in the back. This is Team Bulk, pretty spammy team. I'm using Future Sight on this, right? Take note, I'm using Future Sight on this because there's no Dark. So you really don't need the Moonblast as coverage. You might as well use the Stab Future Sight, which hits just better in general. So that team worked in the past there. This team, I believe, was a Veer Showcase team, but same sort of concept. Like all these, like Munchlax is on there. You don't need to use Munchlax. I think it's the same perspective as a lot of those. I think are interchangeable. Lickitung, Munchlax, Greedent, Double, Vigoroth to a certain extent. Like a lot of these like normal type Pokemon there. Frostlass, I think, will be one of the best Pokemon in this meta again. When you have Dark banned and it's one of the toughest answers, and you have so many flyers and you're spamming. And Frostlass in any limited meta is good. I've said that multiple times. And this one they use Poliwrath, and Poliwrath is an interesting one. Like Scald and Dynamic Punch is one of those things where it's like, again, there is a lot of stuff weak to fighting in this meta. Like a lot of these normal typings that I mentioned just off top here are weak to fighting, and then you have Scald, which is like a pretty hard hitting move that hits well in neutral situations. And Mudshot's a super spammy one, right? So as you're a half fighter, one of your weaknesses in Fairy is gone, right? So not a bad option there. And then the last one, this was one of my balanced teams, of course, featuring my Kanto Ninetales. Again, Altaria should be like one of the top flyers on this meta. When you have Fairy and Steel banned, it's great. Obviously, there are some ice out there, so you got to watch out for that. And if there's ice out there, you will cover it with Ninetales. That's the thought process, right? Your main weaknesses now for Altaria are only going to be ice, so I will cover that with Ninetales, and then I will have Lickitung as a safe swap, which should do well in the mid game against most things. And one of the main ice Pokemon is going to be Frostlass, and Lickitung and Ninetales can deal with Frostlass, right? So balanced team. I'll probably try something to this extent for sure this week. So I think that it's just balanced teams. I enjoy running balanced teams better than I do sort of like ABV style teams. So that's it. Let me know in the comments below what you are playing. Again, it is Match League this week open as well, so we are going to just play a full week of Retro Cup. I think there are a ton of options, right? I think there are a ton of options here. There's just looking at this list, I didn't build this team with Pelipper, which I think will be good. It'll be fun to use Golbat if you want to use Golbat. Regirock, right, is a nice answer. You can replace instead of the Registeel, right? A lot of people, like, flyers are going to run free because the Registeel and stuff aren't there. It's like, well, Regirock is there. And Regirock, if you haven't used it, gets the Stone Edge real quick. So that's an option. Fortunately, I think the Owl and Lantern are a very awesome core. Cofagrigus is something that we just showed how strong it is, except for getting walled by Umbreon. And Umbreon isn't here because it's dark, right? So Cofagrigus is probably going to show up on a few teams, especially that it will do well against Frostlass and Crest. So lots of options. I'm excited. I'm excited to try a few different options here. Let me know in the comments below if you've used a team in Retro Cup in the past that has been strong, or if there's another Pokemon that I should maybe look at building a team around. But with the meta a bit more open here, I will for sure be using more Pokemon. And it's interesting because I was looking on this list. I'm like, one thing you do not see on this list that's always on the top 20 list is Metacham. And it's because, I mean, Steel's not there, which is one of your biggest things you do well against. And Dark, same thing, because you can just counter it. But now you're introducing a lot more things that you'll still do well against a lot of these things on this list. But there's a lot of things on this list now. Flyer, Ghost, multiple Ghosts on this list between Froslash, Shells, and Cofagrigus. Multiple Flyers on this list. A couple poisons you can throw a Psychic at, but like counters resisted the poisons. So there is a lot of things. Cresselia, you have nothing to throw at. There are a lot of things on this list that Metacham is not going to do great against. So that is probably why you are not seeing it as much on this list. Anyways, that's it. Enough thoughts. Just this is how I do it, right? This is how I think about teams. Think about like the meta. Like what do people have? What are strong cores? Like I expect to see that core because I know it's a strong core. Will people use it? Will people counter it? Will people just go with things they're comfortable with? Will they try off Pokemon? So these are the type of things I do when I'm trying to figure out what the meta is going to be and what team I'm going to use. Anyways, that's enough talking. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.